You know, looking at the clock, I realize it's been a little under 24 hours since I've been home, and we're doing this. I am going to get into JAFAX 2026. As is often the case with these, my trip started on Thursday. I was driving from my home to Grand Rapids, Michigan. But along the way, I was going to make a detour and stop at a place, I think it's southwest of Detroit, to meet up with somebody. And it did not take long for the trip there to become a convoluted mess. There was a lot of construction I encountered, which slowed everything down. And there were a couple of points where I and everybody else was diverted off of the highway or state route entirely. Now, the only time I've had that happen before is when there was an accident that involved someone getting seriously injured or killed. I really hope that's not what happened here. I just know that that's the only time I've seen that happen. I stop, like I said, just outside of Detroit, and I meet up with an old/longtime friend of mine. Name's Russ. He's in my chat sometimes as a Zesty scrub. And I hung out with him and his wife at a nearby mall for a little bit. Given the weather that was happening at the time that I was driving there, it was kind of hot, which normally wouldn't be an issue, except I was driving in a car with no air conditioning, which means that for the entire drive, I was going with the windows partially down. I got very acquainted with the sound of wind for approximately 6.5 hours. So after I have that meeting with Zesty Scrub, I head straight from there to Grand Rapids, which is more or less straight across the state of Michigan. And along the way, I don't know what is going on with billboards in Michigan, but I saw some strange ones. The one that stood out in particular to me was there was a picture of a doctor, and right next to him were the words, "Implants, $687. To which my thought was, implants for what exactly? Now here's where I say something that's probably going to piss some people off. One of the billboards that I saw on the way to Grand Rapids said something to the effect of, "You're getting close. Buc-ee's, 444 miles. So here's my thing. I have never encountered a place that I have never had any first-hand experience with that I have so much disdain for as I do Buc-ee's. First of all, the mascot or logo for Buc-ee's, it looks like a character in a Cuphead game that would backstab the main character and then you shoot the shit out of it later in the game. Second, you have a Buc-ee's billboard for a Buc-ee's that is over 400 miles away. That is asshole behavior, and I will not encourage it or stand for it. And before somebody says it, no, I do not go to Sheetz. I just think Buc-ee's is annoying. My tune will probably change when I end up actually going to a Buc-ee's at some point, but for now, Buc-ee's, you're on the shit list. So I'm still going, I'm on my way to Grand Rapids. I get a little over halfway there, and I'm really starting to feel the heat. As you might expect, considering my car didn't have air conditioning. So I make a stop along the way. Now the important thing to note here is we're on the western side of Michigan, which is closer to Wisconsin, which makes it far more likely you're going to encounter a certain quote-unquote fast food chain called Culver's. There's actually one out near where I live, and they're apparently putting in another, but all you need to know about Culver's for now is they have frozen custard treats that they call concrete mixers. So I stopped, I got a water and a concrete mixer, and that powered me through the rest of the trip. So I managed to make it to the hotel. I park in the parking garage. I actually end up getting a spot very close to the skywalk between the garage and the hotel. which is not in the same building where the convention is, but there is a skywalk leading to the convention from the hotel. I'll get more into that later. So I get into the hotel, and some of the first things I see, for one thing, it's like the whole hotel is in sepia tone. Just that color everywhere. I come out on the second floor, and I can see these, like, fancy glass chandeliers, these big canvas paintings of old people, and I'm thinking, I am in the right hotel, huh? And yes, I was. I meet up with Casey. We get checked in, we get in the elevator, and go up to our floor. And we were not expecting what we saw when we stepped out of the elevator, because we come out. First of all, there's this giant mirror to the right of us. And then we start noticing the wallpaper going along the hallway. It's black, and there are these white, ethereal-looking chandeliers printed on the wallpaper. Like, did we end up in a Haunted Mansion hotel? And at that point, I look back at the mirror, and I'm like, if we get too close to that, are our reflections going to pull us in? Because the tone was so off in this hotel. The room itself, by the way, completely normal. And the hallways were dark, too. Because the lights were covered by these, like, translucent, piss-colored light covers. It was really confusing. I'm not sure what exactly they were trying to do. Now, another important thing to note is I brought drinks and snacks. In fact, I brought, like, a thing of waters, and because of what happened with the previous trip to PAX, I brought a 12-pack of Cherry Coke, because I was not taking any chances. So we get all of those drinks into the refrigerator, which we had a hard time finding. The room did have a refrigerator, but it's not immediately obvious where it is. They have these 2 chests of drawers, and one of them, it still has, like, the outlines for drawers and the handles, but it's a fake door. You try pulling one of the handles, the entire thing swings open and reveals the refrigerator. Once I get a chance to, like, breathe a little bit at the hotel and, like, get some drinks in the fridge, get some snacks set up, we head out to meet up with some friends of Casey's. The thing is, Casey was there, and some developers of a visual novel that Casey is helping out with are there. And they all met up, and we're going to head out. And we all end up going to this bar. Now, here's the thing. It's a gay bar. I wanna take you to a gay bar. And for those of you who don't know, I'm not gay. And not only that, I'm straight edge. So, I don't drink. Me being in a gay bar, I'm basically doing everything wrong. But I will say that, like, aside from a pride flag here and there, and some of the music choice being specifically from songs that have, like, gay themes or from gay artists, it was mostly just a bar. You're the most asexual straight I know. I will take that as a compliment. Now, I will note, while I was there, a discussion broke out about a particular kind of drink, one that's primarily Chicago-based, but they had it at this bar. It's something called Malorted. And apparently, it is a drink that is shit. I see Keytar Princess saying, "Dear God, no," in the chat. That tells me all I need to know. It's apparently a drink that is shit, markets itself as shit, and still sells. Now, I will say, I am never drinking Malort, because I don't drink, period. However, I may get some of the posters advertising Malort, particularly the one that says, "These pants won't shit themselves," because I feel like that would be a great bathroom decoration. Once we're done at the bar, we pile into a couple of cars. Casey and I end up back at the hotel. I go upstairs because, like, I didn't really have anything at the bar. I didn't even ask for a soda. But I figured, like, I'm just going to get back to the hotel room and I have sodas that have been waiting in the fridge. So I'll be all set. We get back to the hotel. I go to the fridge, and the fridge has a temperature readout on it. When I left, that temperature readout said 42 degrees. We get back, I swing open the cabinet, and the fridge says 60 degrees. So apparently the fridge just shut off, and all of my drinks were at more or less room temperature. And that was the point where I started trying to figure out, why did that happen? Now I will note that on this fridge, there is no direct temperature control thing on it. There are 2 buttons on it. One that says Quick Chill, and one that says Snooze. I have never seen a snooze button on a refrigerator until this point. And I don't know what it did because I didn't press it. But I did press the Quick Chill button, and it's not a Quick Chill button. I press this button, and I just stare at the temperature on the fridge. And it's not budging, it's not budging. Oh, it went down 1 degree. Not doing anything, not doing anything. Wait, it went back up 1 degree. Why did that happen? Not doing anything. Okay, the quick cool light went off. Better press it again. Okay, the light's not coming on anymore, but it sounds like the fridge is doing something. I keep looking at it. Temperature goes down 1 degree again. And everything I just described to you happens over the span of about half an hour. Eventually, I just have to go on the trust system that eventually this fridge is going to do its job. But I had some lukewarm water, and we just stay up, like, watching videos. Talked about setting up the game system, but that didn't actually happen. And that is how we get to Friday. Now, I will note that there was a schedule posted for JAFAX. So we had some idea of what Casey was doing, but we didn't have official confirmation of it. But more important than that, one of the first things I do when I regain consciousness is I roll out of bed and I immediately go to the fridge. Open up the cabinet door. Temperature is 42 degrees again. So, I don't know what happened yesterday, but the fridge is working properly again. Now, I used to do, like, more in-depth reviews of the rooms for events like these, but for this one, I feel compelled to focus specifically on the shower. First of all, the bathroom as a whole, even by bathroom standards, was an echo chamber. Like, I just gently set down a bottle of soap on the counter, and I heard the echo that didn't fully dissipate for a solid 4 or 5 seconds. But as for the shower itself, I would give this, like, maybe a 4 out of 10. I mean, you can shower in it, and it looks nice, but the only place to have a towel outside of it is next to the toilet, as far away as possible from the door to get into the shower. Another thing, there is this little alcove for shampoo. There are no shelves. Just this, like, tiny little hole that they put some, like, travel-sized things into. And it was just barely small enough to fit my shampoo bottles. And even then, I had to, like, take the stuff that was already there, crunch it over to one side, and then carefully slide my bottles in. And as you might expect from a hotel shower, the water flow was not great. So eventually, we get ready in the room and we realize, oh shit, opening ceremonies are in 15 minutes. We don't know if we're supposed to do that, but we figure, fuck it, we head downstairs. And we start trying to make our way to the event space. The elevator takes us down to the first floor because we couldn't stop at the second for some reason. Well, the reason is it didn't directly connect to the part of the second floor we needed to get to. So we head all the way down, walk to the lobby, and then up a flight of stairs. We end up in what is the hotel's event space, which is for a different event. What kind of event? Well, we couldn't really tell. All we knew was there were a bunch of tables set up in this big open space right next to the stairs. There were some ballrooms next to us that were open, also had tables set up. And also in the middle of the floor that we were walking across was a gigantic replica of the Declaration of Independence. Which, when you also consider that the weird, like, spooky feel from when I walked in the Skywalk and the blatantly, like, haunted house style decor on the floor we were staying on, nothing's adding up about this place. What do you think it says? But we start heading we cut through this event space, and we get into the Skywalk. Well, a Skywalk. This particular part of the Skywalk was extremely hot, and there was a smell like there was a dead body hidden in one of the AC units. We get out of that Skywalk, make a turn, and as we're making a turn, there are these seats in one corner, and there's a guy sitting on the corner on one of those seats. We didn't realize this at the time, but by Sunday, when we were heading to the event space, we go, that same guy has been sitting there every day, every time we go through this hallway. What the fuck is going on? We didn't care enough to find out. We just moved on. But eventually we see what is obviously a couple of weebs coming down this one hall, so we figure, okay, we're in the right place. We go in their general direction, and the hall splits. And there's a thing marked Skywalk. So we go into that. And the style of the building / Skywalk we're in suddenly completely changes. So we're like, okay, this is a little weird, but we keep going. And then we get to another point where it branches off again. And the style completely changes between these two branches again. And we're like, okay, where the hell are we supposed to go? We're in the Skywalk Nexus of sorts. We just pulled up fucking maps and used GPS and realized we had been walking in the wrong direction the entire time. So we found a Skywalk, but not the correct Skywalk to get to the event space. We're like, fuck, we backtrack, we take a different path, and that one does lead us to the proper location. So we managed to get to the con center. We actually come out on the second floor. We have to go down to the first floor to get to the registration desk and get our badge situation figured out. By which I mean we just didn't have badges at all, and we needed to get the guest badges. And in retrospect, I feel bad for this guy. But we get up to the registration desk. We say oh, hey, we need badges. Casey explains they're one of the guests there. And this guy looks at the pre-reg attendee database and a list next to him, and he goes, okay, what's your name? And Casey says their name. He goes and looks at the lists again, and he goes, I don't see the name. Meanwhile, I'm behind, off to the side of them. I pull up my phone, I go to JAFAX's website, because on the front page is a big-ass picture of Casey announcing that they're going to be a guest there, and I just show him that. And that's when it hits him oh shit. And the other person working registration next to him was like, I didn't want to say anything, but how many guest badges do you need? And once we did that, because we still had some time before we actually had to go to the event space and set up, we headed out of the event space and we're waiting for one of Casey's buddies to give us a ride to a coffee shop. And as soon as we set foot outside, we hear sirens. Not police, ambulance, or fire sirens, but those air raid weather alert sirens. You think those are monsters you're killing? And as someone who's in the Midwest, I am intimately familiar with those sirens because I hear them here every now and then. They will frequently test those to make sure they're working in case shit goes down. But having that coupled with the weird-ass hotel we were staying in, it kind of gave off Silent Hill vibes. But we eventually meet up with a friend and we head out to this place called Heritage Coffee. And it was a nice, intimate little coffee place. They didn't just do coffee. I don't think I actually got anything at that time because I had brought some bagels and I just had one of those just to get me started with the day. Also, I'm not really a coffee drinker. But once we were done there, we headed back to the event space and went into the exhibit hall to see where autographs were set up. And I will say, the placement of the autograph tables was actually kind of ideal. Because the moment you walk into the exhibit hall, one of the first things you see is like slightly to the left of you are the autograph tables for the guests. And then beyond that is a setup for indie games that were on display. And then beyond them was the dealer space and the artist alley. The only thing that was a little weird about the setup was there was like some pipes and curtains behind the autograph space, but there was absolutely nothing behind those pipes and curtains. So there was no space to like store anything or like duck back behind a curtain if you needed to. You pull back the curtain and the food court is right there. Although there is one other thing, which is we had to set up the autograph space, which means getting all the prints out and getting the banner hung from the pipes and drapes. Usually, events will have like hooks that you can use, because a lot of these banners have like ringlets set into them that you can use to like put a hook in and then hook it over the top of the pipes and drapes. They didn't have those here. What they did have was zip ties, which solved the problem in the moment, but did lead to some complications later. As we are still setting up, and I'm like standing on a chair zip tying this banner onto the pipes and drapes, people come up to the autograph table. Fortunately, they were not looking for prints, but they did get some personal stuff signed, like as we were still setting up. We do finally get like properly set up, do a bit more signing. Eventually the time comes when lunch break happens, because they did actually work like lunch breaks into the schedule, and fairly long lunch breaks too, so you could actually like go out and like have something local and then come back instead of just bumming it at the food court the entire time. So we meet up with Casey's buddies and we head to this place called Two Beards. And the thing about this place is it's a sandwich shop, and all of the sandwiches at this place are named after people with beards. I almost got the George Carlin while I was there, but I changed my mind at the last second and I got the Jim Henson. And you know what? The Jim Henson was delicious. That said, the sandwiches were kind of big, and neither of us could finish ours. I think we both got like halfway through and said, we're just going to take the rest of these, throw them in the hotel fridge, and just have them for later. Now, at the same time we're thinking that, we're walking back to the event space. Casey has a panel with those local friends to do a panel about dubbing for visual novels. So at this point, we split off. Casey goes with the friends to help set up the panel. I go to the hotel room to drop the sandwiches off in the fridge. And I'm still thinking at this point, don't fuck with me, fridge. But I get back up to the hotel room, check the fridge. It's still working as intended. It's actually even colder than before. It's 40 degrees now, which I'm like, yes, it's working, but also I hope it doesn't keep dropping and just freeze everything inside, because that's also counterproductive. So I get the sandwiches in the fridge, head back down, take the very long walk back through the declaration of other event to a skywalk, make another turn, get on another skywalk, go down this long hallway, eventually make my way to the panel rooms. Now, along the way, I noticed that there were a couple things set up sort of in the big-ass middle space that is between the vendor hall and, like, the panel rooms, main events, all that stuff. And in this space, there were two things going on. First of all, there is a sword fighting and sparring arena that's set up. And then a short distance away from that, there is a sumo ring set up. And yes, they were dressed appropriately. But we get to the panel. Well, I get to the panel. They were already there. If I remember correctly, and I might be wrong about this, it may have been kind of a last-second addition to the schedule, but there were some people who showed up, including a couple of people who were making a visual novel of their own. So they were legit there for, like, information, tips on how they could do that with their visual novel. So it ended up being a pretty productive panel. We checked back in with the event space for a little bit, and I realized that in this big-ass area, they also crammed in, like, some gaming setups and a small collection of arcade machines. And there are some of the usual suspects there. They had rhythm games like Sound Voltex, U-Beats. There were a couple initial D machines. But the thing that caught my eye was they had a Time Crisis machine. Not just any Time Crisis machine. Time Crisis 1. I've seen Time Crisis like 3 or 4 everywhere, especially if you go to like a Dave & Buster's or a Round 1 or something like that. This was the original Time Crisis. But once the day is more or less done, we meet up with the visual novel friends again, and we all head out to this local place called KCM. I don't know, describe it. It's a ramen place, but it doesn't just do ramen. They also have like some Korean dishes. They have some non-ramen Japanese options. I was boring and I got chicken katsu. Yeah, because these friends were local, they basically knew all the good food places. So we were never particularly worried about like having a meh dinner or lunch or anything like that. Or like going to a place that's going to be too busy and then running out of time and not being able to eat anything. So we actually ended up hanging out at one of the friends' places for a little bit. It got kind of late in the day. We wound up going back to the hotel. Friday night, when we went back to our room the final time, we head back through that event space with the giant Declaration of Independence, and it is a sea of old people in suits. Old people everywhere, suits everywhere. We have no idea what's going on. It's very difficult to tell at a glance what this event is actually supposed to be, but we get through them, head down the stairs. There's even more old people in suits, like around the hotel bar and in the hallway that we go down to get to the elevators. I brought a PS2 that we could set up to play video games at the hotel. And the last couple of times we did this, it was kind of a pain in the ass to set up. Getting to the HDMI port, because like most TVs don't have AV hookups anymore. Switching the inputs, finding ways to deal with like input delay, make it a huge pain in the ass to get access to those options at all. And then there was the TV in this hotel. Because I brought an adapter, I brought the AV hookups for the PS2, and I was going to run them through this box that would convert the signal to HDMI, and then we took the HDMI cable up. And our plan was basically to just unhook the HDMI cable that's in there for the cable / hotel TV options, plug in the HDMI cable, and then deal with like controller input lag for whatever. But Casey takes one look behind this TV and goes, I see AV ports. Naturally, I don't believe them because it's been ages since I've seen AV ports on a hotel TV, but sure enough, they're in there. And I'm like, okay, let's not get our hopes up. We need to confirm they actually work and that we're able to switch to the AV input with the remote. So we get the AV cables hooked up. We get the remote. There is a function button. The function button lets us change the inputs on the TV. We switch it to AV. We have PS2 signal. And there is no input delay. It was the best possible scenario. It might never happen again, but for that one glorious con, we were able to play PS2, zero fuss, no weird shit like the volume getting jacked up to 100 every time you turn the TV on with the input switched, which did happen at a couple of hotels. And for that particular night, we wound up playing what accidentally became a staple of events like this, aggressive inline, which I feel like I'm going to have to make a video on that at some points. Like even just a moment or something, because I'm becoming way more familiar with that than I ever thought I would. So we just basically played aggressive inline into the night, and then eventually fell asleep. Also, I can't remember if this is the night that I introduced Casey to Game Changer from Dropout, and thus we get into Saturday. I think I was awake at like 8:30, 9 o'clock, somewhere in that time frame. I get in the shower, and I didn't notice this before, but as I'm showering, there's this weird tone that's coming through the wall, and it changes pitch, and it sounds like an ocarina that only has 2 notes as you're showering. But once that's done, we both head down, and we head out for coffee again with some friends. If I remember correctly, this was when we went to the place that also had, like, breakfast sandwiches. If I remember correctly, I think I had a ham and egg sandwich, which was pretty damn good, and also pretty damn filling. Because I didn't feel like eating again for a while. We head back to the event space, and we go to our autograph table. We still have all the prints there and everything, but we realize all of the markers are gone. And we're like, wait, what happened with the markers? Because, like, obviously, you need markers and pens to sign shit. But at the same time, the walk from there back to our room at the hotel is so goddamn long that neither of us want to actually go back there and see if we accidentally left them in the room. We're like, ah, shit, what do we do now? I have some things in my messenger bag that I take to these events for certain situations that tend to come up. Some of the things I had were I had a couple of paint pens and just regular ass pens too. So we actually borrowed like a black Sharpie from another table, but I broke out these two paint pens. One was copper, one was silver. And I break out the copper one, shake it up, try to write with it, and liquid comes out. Not even paint, just liquid. It looked like water, and I don't know why it did that. I had like some paper with me, like sheets of paper, and I'm messing with this copper pen, trying to get it to like work properly, like paint, and it's not. It's just like shooting out brown water over and over and over, and we can't get it working. So I'm like, well, fuck. I hope the silver one works, or we're screwed for a little bit. Break out the silver one, shake it up, try to get the tip working, and it works perfectly fine. So we're like, okay, good. We have a paint pen, we have a black Sharpie. Let's see if we can make this last, at least until we can get back up to the hotel room to get the rest of the markers back. And the black Sharpie and that silver paint pen covered the entire day. And you know what? That silver paint pen also wound up covering most of Sunday as well. So it was an absolute trooper. Unlike that piece of shit copper pen. So anyway, we signed for a bit, and then the lunch period comes around. God, I said lunch period like it's fucking high school. We meet up with Casey's friends, and we just walk out of the event space and down the road to this place called, I think it was Noodle Pig Ramen or something like that. But they're very clearly leaning into the anime aesthetic with this. They have two displays above where you order. One of them has the menu on it, and the other is just playing like food porn clips from Studio Ghibli movies. Also, at least one of the employees behind the counter was cosplaying. Now, like I said before, I wasn't particularly hungry. I just had like some rice, and they had fries that were seasoned with furikake, which is something I never thought to do, but it works really well. I'm gonna have to try that myself at some point. I should also note that the walk to and from this restaurant was very on brand for me and Casey, because right along the road was a skate park. Once we got back from the ramen place, and then eventually decided to head back to the hotel room before Casey had another panel to do, the Declaration of Independence was gone. I mean the replica one, not the actual, well, you know. However, there were still tables out. Different tables. And there were a couple other tables that had like name tags placed out on them. And there were these like poster-sized paper things that were face down on these tables. Except for one. It had like pencil sketches of more old people in suits on it. And there was some kind of like emblem that was drawn on it. It said like, oh god, what did it say? Gospel through motion. Also, the scaling on it was very weird because one of the old guys in suits kind of looked like the Trollolo guy, but his head was like 2 times too small for his body. This guy looks like he is 80% suit jacket. It was on that trip that we got back to the hotel room and realized, Oh yeah, the markers were in fact just left back in the hotel room by accident. Grab those, head back, because Casey has a Q&A panel to do. Now, once upon a time at ZenkaiCon, I just, out of pure why the hell not energy, asked a question in Monster Hunter language. And I bring that up because guess what I did at this panel? And I will say, before the panel actually happened, Casey was like, don't do it. Don't do it. And I did it. Monster Hunter Wild's Ascendance. Detour arrive Kushufa. But I did get the question out, and to Casey's credit, they did respond in Monster Hunter language. Now you might be saying, wait a minute, there's no Monster Hunter language option in Wild. How do they know how to do that? Think about that. And I did come up with like one more joke question, and then I ended with a legit question, which was along the lines of like, favorite or most underrated skateboard or inline trick. And their answer for inline was, I think, the soul grind. And their answer for skateboarding was the Casper slide, which I'm not as familiar with inline, so I don't know about the soul grind, but on the Casper slide front, I completely agree. So, the panel ends, and I don't know what it was, but like, once we'd finished this panel and gone through the rest of the obligations for the day, both Casey and I went back to the hotel room and hard crashed. Like, both of us just passed out for a couple hours, at least. I was the one who woke up first. In keeping with tradition that we had established for the weekend, I just fired up aggressive inline again. And a note about that, I wound up getting to the final level of aggressive inline. Like, I don't know if there's a hidden stage in it or anything, but I got to the last stage that you can see, like, on the end of the level ticker. And it's actually as I am playing aggressive inline that... Look, aggressive inline is kind of a janky game. While I was playing this, I was at this point where I was trying to go up a staircase that led to a locked door. A locked door I did not have the key for. As I'm going up to the staircase, I just say, whatever, and I do a wall ride. This apparently really confused the game. I do this wall ride, and suddenly my character, like, rockets through the floor and ends up in a hallway that I have never seen before. And as I start moving around, I realize, wait a minute, my character got through that locked door, but the hallway has other locked doors in it, and I can't open any of them. So I had effectively soft-locked myself in there. Once both of us had regained consciousness and had our wits about us, we met up with one of Casey's friends, because the others were also getting kind of tired. So we walked through part of Grand Rapids, and we end up at this like bar and pub grub place called, I think it's Brick and Porter. And they also have some interestingly named things there that you can eat. They have sandwiches, obviously. They also had specifically some mac and cheese options. And I went with this thing called Wilbur's Last Squeal. It's mac and cheese with pulled pork and barbecue sauce, and also like little shreds of bacon. And it was amazing. So instead of just driving back immediately, the friend that Casey and I had been hanging out with comes back to us at the hotel for a little bit. So as this friend is at the hotel now, I break out some of the rando picks for PS2 games that I brought with me to the hotel. And one of them was a game called Extermination. God, how do I even describe this? It's a little bit Metal Gear Solid. It's a little bit Resident Evil, I guess. It's a little bit, okay, here's the point. It's bad. And the voice acting in particular was hurting us.
Listen to what I'm telling you, and get out of here as soon as you can.
Want to know what the hell happened here? What happened to my partner?
But then I decided to switch that out for something that wasn't necessarily better in that regard. I had already shown Casey Vampire Night before, but I figured, well, this friend probably hasn't seen it, so let's show him that. And laughter ensued.
What do you know? What I have lost? The pain I have suffered!
Thank you for rescuing me.
There's no need to thank us. We're here too. They're coming.
Eventually, said friend goes home, and we pack it in for the night. And then Sunday comes. We wake up early to pack, because, like, our checkout would be while we were still at the event. For me, that means packing up and then also hauling my crap to my car. Once we do all of that, though, we still have time to meet up with the same friend from the previous night. And we end up eating breakfast at this place called Social Misfits. And it is another place that has a very particular theme for, like, its various food items. And I had these stuffed waffle stick things called the Ramon. So, we get back to the signing space, and we're prepping to do, like, one of the last bits of signing for the event as a whole. And as we are doing this, I didn't mention this, but directly across from us was a drink place called Wild Bill's. And there was someone in line for Wild Bill's who had a baby stroller with them. And the baby in this stroller would not stop crying. Of course, because it's a baby, I don't just mean crying, I mean unholy shrieking. I don't know how long exactly it went on for, except to say that it was too long. But once that is dealt with, we have a few signings throughout the day. Eventually we get to a point where these two people come up to the table. One of them is holding one of those sleeves that has like art prints in it, and they turn it around, and it is an art print that, like, it was a Chill Truck art print from Dungeon Meshi that had already been signed by Casey. And then this person says, "We found this next to one of the tables in Artist Alley, and it didn't look like anyone was taking it, so yeah, if they come by here, could you possibly get this back to them?" And we're like, oh, shit. Yeah, we'll try to do that. Now, if this particular print didn't have a name attached to it, like, it had a dedication of to, and then the alias this person went by, if it weren't for that, we probably would not have any indication of who this actually belonged to. But there was a name written there, and I, like, just barely remembered. There was this one person who had, like, purple hair and, like, a face mask that had, like, a skull printed on it. And I was, like, 80 to 90% sure that that was the person that this belonged to. And this is where the positioning of the autograph table was actually pretty advantageous. We could just keep an eye out from where we were at the entrance and exit to the exhibit hall and see if we saw that person either walking past our table, walking toward the food court, or exiting the exhibit hall, or coming into the exhibit hall. Because point being, we had a good vantage point to potentially see and stop them. One of Casey's other friends, one who doesn't have any obligation to, like, stay by the autograph table unlike us, takes the print and starts winding his way through Artist Alley and the dealer space to see if he can find who this print might belong to and then get it back to them. A little bit of time goes by. Eventually, he comes back to the table still with the print. And shortly after he comes back, I see a person walk by from our table toward the dealer space. And I'm thinking, I know that person got something signed from us before, but I don't think that's who it is. And then around the same time that happens, I, like, peek back toward the food court. And I see this person walking around who has purple hair. But their back is facing me, so I don't have a good viewpoint on, like, if they have the masks that I remember them having. I'm like, maybe? And then I notice they're going through the food court back toward the exit of the exhibit hall. And as they do that, just for a moment I can see them in profile, they're wearing a face mask that looks like it has a skull print on it. And at that point, I just say out loud, I think that's them. I grab the art print, get out from behind the table as fast as I can, and start like hustling to get over to them. Now I don't catch up to them immediately. They actually make it toward the desk where like registration and like also the lost and found would be. And they walk to one of the people running the lost and found. Like I'm standing like kind of behind and off to the side of them when they get there and ask this, but they say, hey, has anyone stopped by with a signed Dungeon Meshi print? Like, I'm just standing behind them and I just go, is it this one? And they turn around, see me holding up the like art print bag with a signed Dungeon Meshi print in it, and they go, yes! So, thankfully, crisis averted on that front. And I explained just like, yeah, someone found it in the artist space, took it to our table, and we'd been on the lookout for you for a little bit now. Like, we both walked back in the general direction of the exhibit hall, but they did that to meet up with a friend of theirs, and just explained that, like, I'd gotten their Dungeon Meshi print back to them, and I wasn't even thinking, I just did the, you know that, like, image of, like, the dude who does the peace out move and then fades away? That's kind of what I did, except instead of fading away, I just kept walking to the exhibit hall. So more time goes by. Eventually, time comes when we wrap up the signings, and we hang out for just a little bit at like a couple of the rhythm games, because another one of Casey's friends was there and was pretty good at this one rhythm game called, and I'm probably pronouncing this wrong, Chunithm. It's a rhythm game where the input is like a keyboard, but it's not like individual keys. It's like a couple, like 4 gridded off sections of a keyboard. And you have to like press the right region. You can do slides between the regions. It also has like a vertical distance sensor, so you can like dramatically lift off the keys or like motion your hands down toward the keys for certain notes to register. And as we are heading out, we meet up with the main desk for the con, which is near registration. Contribute some signed things for a raffle that they're doing, and also do a couple of signings for like various people on staff. One of those people on staff was the dude from the registration desk that I mentioned earlier, and he was still really apologetic about what had happened. I mean, it wasn't a huge deal in the end. We weren't exactly worried about not getting badges for the event that Casey had been invited to. Time passes, and our time at the convention is eventually done. We head out, and we all agree that we're going to meet up at this place called, what was it? Hopcat. Anyway, we get to Hopcat, which is a restaurant that's fairly removed from where the event took place. It's not really in the city of Grand Rapids, more on the outskirts. Almost as soon as we sit down, a baby starts crying nearby. Because of course it does. And it is as we are at this place that I'm looking through the menu. I get like, I think it was a turkey sandwich and fries. And the person taking our order says, did you want a little cup of cheese with that? And I go, oh yeah, sure. And as I say that, I hear Casey go, oh no. See, I wasn't even thinking of that at the time. I wasn't even thinking about how last couple of events, anytime I got something that had like a little container of cheese, I would shoot it. And if Casey hadn't said anything, this would have been a perfectly normal dinner. But the moment Casey says that, I'm like, oh yeah. Well, I know what I gotta do now.
I just want you to know, I'd completely forgotten about this until you said something.
Screw you.
Go for it. You said fuck it though, asshole. Yeah, get that angle. Oh my god.
That's always the like.
I was raised on the dairy, bitch.
That was too easy.
It was at that restaurant that I said my goodbyes from the group because Casey was going to hang out with the friends and then depart later. So I started driving from there. I was driving for a while. I got to a point where the fuel light for my car kicked on. And at the same time as the fuel light kicked on, I felt my stomach churn a bit. You know, sometimes your body gives you messages? Well, I got a message from my body, and this is a bit TMI, and it went something like this. Hey, not for nothing, but in approximately 10 minutes, you're going to shit. And it doesn't matter where you are or what you're doing at the time, it's going to happen, so you might as well do something about it. So I'm like, just keeping an eye out for the first exit that has a gas station near it. A few minutes later, it comes, and I have that quandary of, do I get the fuel first or use the restroom in the station first? I decided that restroom took priority, because if I wait and then somebody else gets into the restroom and doesn't get out fast enough, I'm screwed. I get into the station, go to the restroom, it's open. Like, instead of there being like a stall and a urinal or something, it is just a single room bathroom with one toilet in it. You get in, you lock the door, do your thing. Like, I close the door, I hit the lock on it. The lock is kind of spongy. And it's in that moment that I'm thinking, wait, the lock does work, right? Let's just say in the middle of it, I found out whether or not the lock worked. Thankfully it did. But even if it didn't, thankfully, that happened like as I was about to wash my hands. So I keep driving. I got held up by construction multiple times, which wound up delaying me for like an hour, if not more. But I did eventually finally make it home. And that was my JAFAX.